Hello and welcome everyone. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. Is it Wednesday yet? I don't know. My week is flying by. So, welcome to AUTMHQ's Day in the Life series. We are excited to have everybody here. We're excited to jump into this topic where we're talking about the day in the life of a really super cool occupation and career. So, I want to bring on Theresa to say a few words in a minute, but before we get started, I want to share as a reminder as why we have this session. So, as you know, that AUTMHQ works on having opportunities for us to increase our access and exposure and really put a name in the face these careers. The reason why is our leadership and the representation of employees and leadership in the tech space is not where it should be. And so by having these opportunities to talk about these career paths, these occupations, especially when it comes to talking to somebody, who's Hispanic, somebody of color, somebody who's Black, in that space that represents somebody that looks like us, it's a little easier to digest, and you can also have a shared experience. So today, we are going to focus on, like I said, the day in the life of a business and data analyst. In that conversation, we're going to learn all the things that a job description does not share with you. To be honest, it's good to hear from somebody who's actually doing the job, but it's even better to hear someone who's doing the job really well, and that is Felipe Sanches. Before we bring on Felipe, I would like for Theresa to share a little bit about ZeroCater in general, and then we can go ahead and get started with our conversation. Hi, Theresa. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing great. Thanks for having us. This is really awesome to be part of this. My name is Theresa Morgan. I'm the director of recruiting here at ZeroCater. And I guess the best way to think of us is we are like the Uber of corporate catering, but we're like Uber meets Netflix meets Spotify. So we curate customized food programs for the clients and companies that we feed. So we are in the B2B catering food tech space. And right now, we are actually in a period of rapid growth. So we're hiring quite a bit. We're really excited about new roles that are opening up and different opportunities for Automites to apply for our roles.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And so what we're going to do, we're going to bring Theresa back, and we're going to be talking about the different opportunities that are open. But right now, I want to bring on our man of the hour, Felipe Sanches. And Felipe is going to discuss with us the best way to hop into data analytics, business and data analytics. So thank you, Felipe, for joining us.
Thanks for the generous and kind intro, Isa. Very happy to be chatting with you all, participating in this event. Thanks for the opportunity to share a little bit about myself, ZeroCater, and what I do with ZeroCater.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for my tools here. White screen, it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah. I'm hearing myself. Oh, sorry.
I think we're good. I don't hear any echoes on my end. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so that's good. That's great. Cool. So let's over our agenda and what we'll be discussing here today. So first, a little bit of an introduction. Actually, we kind of mainly did that. Theresa talked about ZeroCater. I'm going to just cover a couple more topics. Then we're going to talk about what is business and data analyst. So what are the differences and intersections between these two areas? And then talk a little bit about the responsibilities of someone who's working that role. And after that, I'll give examples of what actually I do with ZeroCater. We'll have 3 scenarios to cover, and then lastly, I'll give some anecdotal advice based on my experience on how to break into analytics. Because myself, my first job at ZeroCater wasn't in analytics specifically. So I moved into that team after a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
Sweet.
So yeah, what about ZeroCater? I know it is a catering company, but when you're talking about numbers and throwing in analytics to serving food, like how are we combining these ideas? How does ZeroCater do it so well?
Right. So I think it's about the amount of data we collect, we have in our system. So as Theresa was saying, you can imagine like a DoorDash for corporate catering, and then every single item that we have in our database. So imagine a chicken parmigiana from Subway.
Mm-hmm.
We will have about 100 data points to describe that chicken parmigiana. So their cuisine, their taste, if it's salty, if it's sweet, if it's bitter, texture, the prep method, the preparation method, and then we have the temperature, and then we have the dietary and the different allergens. If it has nightshade, if it has eggs, if it has all kinds of things you can think of, and special diets as well, and their weight and their protein weight. So we collect a lot of data on the items we have in our platform. And then similar to what Netflix does or Spotify does, the more our users rate and get these items and give feedback about these items, we understand more about the quality of these items and what are the employees liking and what they're likely to like in the future based on that. So we can be very prescriptive on what each company, because companies have different employees and the different employees have different profiles and different preferences, and depending on their budget and where they're located and how much food they want, we can be very targeted, like laser targeted. Okay, Isa, you're very, very, very likely to love this food that I'm going to send to you. Or here's a great recommendation. You can still choose what you want, but look, based on your data, this is probably what you're going to like. And on the other hand, we can talk with our partners. We call the culinary partners, which are the restaurants that feed the employees that we serve. We can tell them, look, this is what this population in Austin downtown looks. Let's build specific meals for this kind of population at this price point, at this size, with this much protein, with this taste profile. So we have the ability to leverage in the data we have to make everyone happy with the food they get. Because there's nothing worse than being excited for a meal and having a bad experience. I hate that. Even when I'm cooking myself, I don't like that. So yeah, moving forward. So in this context of corporate catering and the data we have, to give a general idea of a business and data analyst do. So they are a little bit different, but ZeroCater is a startup. And in startup, you wear many hats. So right now, we are a team of two. I have Arnav in my team, and we cover both areas, business and data analysts. But I want to do a little bit of a segregation so we are clear in which of this do, because AUTMHQ offers a great program for data analysts. I took a look at the syllabus and I read through it. But these two areas, business and data analysts, they have a lot of intersection. But let's try to make the distinction here. So business analysts maximize the business effectiveness through data-driven decisions. Use data to form business insights and recommend changes in other departments. So I'm always talking a lot with other departments in my company. My job is to actually make other teams better for the most part, and ultimately make our business better. Help them with processes, helping them find the questions they have to be asking, and helping them find the solutions. Then the data analyst, on the other hand, collects, transforms, and organize data in order to draw conclusions, make predictions, and drive informed decision-making. A data analyst has, in general, a more targeted goal, which is we have a very specific problem. We need to collect the data, maybe transform it to get to a very narrowed answer. That's, for the most part, what data analysts do. Right. So because again, ZeroCater is a smaller company, this two roles, and I have a third role, which is product analyst, but these two roles are for the most part the same. So the business analyst usually talking more with teams, and then data analysts usually solving a more complex but very narrowed problem. And then so a couple of comparisons in the next slide, please. Yes, perfect. So a business data analyst, you can think as more like of a product manager. I saw we had another event that I forgot his name, Alcaraz, I think. He did explain he's a product manager, storageable, and product management. You're trying to write specs. Okay, you got trying to figure out what you have to do. Whereas the data analyst is the engineer. Okay, after someone figured out what you have to do, let's do it. Someone has to write the code. Business analysts also do that, and not code. Usually SQL or Python. You're not creating a software, creating a model. But that's, I think it's a very easy distinction, right? So business analysts trying to figure out what you have to do, and the data analyst is actually doing the work. And then the business analyst is usually thinking in the broader sense of a business decision, right? It's a more open question, where the data analyst is looking for a very targeted problem, which needs a robust model or a way to figure that out. Because of that, sorry, Isa, you want to go ahead?
No, just so an example is basically, so the business analyst is more focused on all of the descriptive, as you say, all of the qualitative information, right? And then the data analyst is turning all of that into numbers, basically, and making it.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're getting the qualitative. Yes, you have other teams asking you things that don't have numbers yet. And then the business analyst, okay, how do I translate that to numbers? How do I figure out what I have to get? And many times the business analyst is also going to get that. It has some technical skills. That's important too. But then the data analyst is usually, okay, when the problem really needs like some robust math or methodology, then the data analyst will join. And yes, and because of that, the business analyst has a more descriptive solution in general, right? You're going to give, okay, here's the context. Here's what I'm able to find. Let's make a decision upon that. Whereas the data analyst is going to say, you asked me for A, here's A, right? You asked me to know, okay, what's the percentage, what's the likely percentage chance that something's going to happen? 68%, period. Now, it's your job to figure something out with that, right? So how can I make a model that's going to predict what people are going to like? Here's a model. Figure it out, right? More like that. So business analyst has a lot of teamwork, whereas data analyst is usually doing work heads down. So before I talk about the responsibilities, any questions between the distinction of these two roles and the similarities?
I don't see any questions yet, but if they are relevant to the topics that you're sharing, I will flash them on the screen for you to have. But I'm pretty clear, because I want to know the difference between, you do both roles, but how do you separate them, when you're actually working, and you're doing a really good job at explaining, you have the flowery customer end goal picture, but then you got to make that into number, crunch it into numbers, or something that internally y'all can use to measure and make sure that you are obtaining the pretty picture that you're wanting to obtain, that the business analyst comes up with, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I think this is clear now on the section of responsibilities of my current role. I think the 3 to the 4 first points will be more business analyst oriented, and then the technical skills and defining and measuring success would be more the data analyst piece. So what are I think the 5 key responsibilities we have? First one is understand your business. I think this is key. Enter a company that you like the business or the industry or whatever they are doing or the future, because it's very important that, numbers itself, they don't tell you anything. First, you need some intuition, and then you're going to prove your intuition with numbers. And the more you understand the business you're in, the higher the chances of your intuition being right, or at least pointing to some direction that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding your business is key. I try to be the person that understands our business the best, along with our leadership or CEO or COO. I try, not that I know, but I try to really focus on what do we do, what are we good at, what are the different teams doing, and which industry are we in. Second is prioritize needs. Because I'm working with all teams in our company pretty much, everybody has a problem or has something that they want to improve, and everybody thinks that their problem is the most important problem, which is fair. It's not I myself too. I always think my problems are the most important problems, right? And so if you can only prioritize your needs if you understand what the business needs ultimately, and then you can actually grade who's asking important things in general and in reality. The third point is problem defining. Usually we have problem solver, but I think it's more important and harder to be a problem definer. I think we all have in our personal lives that experience that we have, like maybe a friend or family or ourselves, actually a lot of ourselves, and we complain and we don't know why. That's not understanding what problems you have. And I have that all the time in my life. So problem definer means you and someone else that your stakeholder, someone else in another team, or even your customer, you understand what the problem is. This is key, because if you don't understand the problem and you go for a solution, you're going to solve something, but you're not solving the actual problem. So problem definer is critical. And then fourth, after you define the problem, you got to solve it. And to solve, along with, of course, business knowledge, you should have the technical skills, right? In this case, you probably should know SQL, you should know Excel, you should know potentially R, Python, and things like that. We're going to cover that. So, but you have to have the hard skills to actually do the job. And then lastly is, okay, I did the job, now what, right? This improving, is our business going to the next level? Is this person does this person that asked me for this has a process that's more efficient and is taking less time? Why did I do this ultimately? Which is define and measure success. Make sense? Cool. And then so those are my general responsibilities. So how do I translate that to actually doing things? What I do as a business and data analyst. Again, first thing is my general framework is define the problem. Problem definer is the most important thing. People usually come already asking for a solution for a problem that they don't know what it is. And if there is a problem at all, this is so key. Sometimes there's no problem. And then after you define the problem, understand if the problem is actually real. Someone says, hey, Felipe, or hey, I said something. I hate San Francisco. I'm in San Francisco right now. It's not the case, right? But let's just say that. Let's talk about you hating San Francisco to see if you actually hate San Francisco. Maybe you just had a bad day today. Something weird happened. It was really windy. Something wrong happened. And you just say that out of nowhere. But you actually don't hate San Francisco. I love San Francisco, right? And then after I understood the problem. Now let's ask more questions to get context to this problem, to see this problem from different angles. And then hopefully at that point, you can actually formulate, okay, I understand what it is, and I should define the output. What is the thing that I'm going to build that's going to actually help me solve this problem or understand this problem better? Because that might be multiple iterations. And then lastly is building the output. And then, here it is. This is what I have built for you. So now we're going to see 3 scenarios that are actually very close to reality. They pretty much happened with ZeroCater. Maybe the numbers are a bit different, but that happens. And how I applied these steps, this methodology in actually solving them. The first 2, I'm going to kind of lead it. And then the third one, hopefully you guys can help me figure it out which steps I should take to solve the scenario. Cool. So scenario 1 is culinary partners, the restaurants that are part of our platform, say it's very hard to plan if orders are coming so close to mealtime. So let me give you some context. Before COVID, we had one product, which was called Managed Cafe. So we have a client, let's say we have Apple. Apple has a very cool office in downtown Austin. And Apple comes to ZeroCater and says, look, I want you to feed these 100 employees that are going to my downtown Austin office. You have a $20 budget. I have 50 vegetarians, 20 vegans, and 30 people out of these 100 that don't have any dietary restrictions. Please feed them with the best you have. So we'll take care of them. And then in Manage Cafe, we are able to plan the headcount of each meal way in advance, because that's how it works. And we used to send the orders to the restaurant that's going to serve Apple with 1 week in advance. So let's say the orders for next Thursday for Apple, and then this Thursday we're going to tell the restaurant that's serving Apple, let's say McDonald's, hey, you have an order for 100 people downtown Austin. This is what I'm going to ask. I want 5 of the fish sandwiches, 20 of the beef sandwiches, so forth and so on. With COVID, we created a new product called Cloud Cafe, which now allows for individuals themselves, each employee, through an app or their desktop, to order exactly the meal that they want from McDonald's. So before, we would have a team that says, okay, the 50 vegans from Apple are going to get the Impossible Burger from McDonald's, and the 30 vegetarian are going to get the mushroom cheese burger, and the 20 left are going to get the beef sandwich. With Cloud Cafe, each person of this 100 persons can actually order whatever they want from the options from McDonald's. And maybe not all the 100 people are actually going to order, maybe just 80. Or maybe on that day, there's more people coming to the office because there's a meeting there and people flew in from New York, San Francisco, and there are going to be 150 people in the office. So it gives the flexibility to companies and employees to order what they like the most, and if they are in the office at all or not. But what changes there is that we allow employees to order up to 24 hours before the meal time. So it means that for the order next Thursday, employees can choose something from McDonald's menu up to Wednesday. So it's 1 day lead time. Whereas before we had a whole week of lead time. And now culinary partners are saying, look, I don't like this that much because I'm getting so many orders the day before and it's hard to plan my staff, to buy the products I need. This is not great. The driver, do I need a big van or do I need a small car to make this delivery? This is not good. So the problem is partners are not enjoying getting their orders the day before the meal. That's the problem I was told. Felipe, we have to figure this out. I said, okay, let's figure this out. Can go to the next slide. Isa, please. Perfect. So I started the next question. Remember, on the framework we're looking at is define the problem and then understand if the problem is real. So okay. So is this actually a problem? Is it hard to plan because all the orders are coming the day before? So the first thing is I have to define what non-hard means, because it becomes really subjective, right? So they can always complain if everyone is ordering a week in advance, but only one person orders the day before. Is that still hard or is this doable? What's hard? So I asked the partners, hey, what does non-hard mean to you? And they said, Felipe, I would love if all my orders, if 80% of my orders would come in with 48 hours in advance, 2 days before. If I had the vast majority of my orders on average for 2 days before, it's fine, because then I can just buy a little bit more and I kind of already know what the headcount looks like. I said, okay, great. So that's what I have to see. So that's, okay, there's a problem. They're complaining. And then I have to see if they are actually getting more than 20% of their orders after 48 hours before the order, right? So if only, let's say 50% of the people are ordering 48 hours before the meal time. Cool. So first, let's see if this is a problem. So I want to see now, so what I thought I should do is let me create a visual where we can see if people are ordering close to mealtime or not. Then I thought, okay, what are my parameters there? What I'm checking against? I should see what percentage of total boxes are ordered when in different time frames. And if that's consistent, if there's not a lot of variance between one order and another. right? So I thought, okay, sounds good. So here's what I put together. So now is I defined, what I need to see if the problem is real. And this is the output we created. So it's a very simple table where in the columns you have time frames. Up to 48 hours before the meal, up to 72 hours, and up to 100 hours before the meal. And then on the rows, you have the percentage of orders that were ordered at that time frame and the coefficient of variation, which is a measure for how much this changes from order to order. There's a lot of change. And then what we find out is that 85% of the orders come 48 hours before the meal time. So in that example of Apple, of the 100 employees, on average, and with very little variation, because that's a coefficient of variation, 85 of the employees order what they want from McDonald's up to 48 hours before mealtime. What this means is that there's no problem at all, because restaurants said, okay, if 80% or more of the orders come 48 hours before, I'm okay with that. And actually it's 85%, and there's very little variation. There's no problem at all. So there's nothing to be solved. It's already solved. We just didn't know the data, and we couldn't communicate the data to the restaurants, or they didn't know the data themselves. They were just maybe they had, it's just like the San Francisco example. They had one day where a lot of orders came the last day, and they said, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I cannot do this anymore in my life. But that's not what on average happens. So on scenario one was, I didn't even have to actually solve the problem, because there was no problem. I first had to solve the perception that there was a problem. Scenario two was a very, Scenario two was a very, you want to say something, Isa?
Yeah, so I was just going to chime in really quick in terms of, like summarize the scenario one. A lot of times, like you were saying, your example with San Francisco, somebody says statement, I hate San Francisco, but really you just had a rainy day. Well, that could be the reason I hate San Francisco. I had it's rainy there. I hate San Francisco just because, the wine tour was shut down today, or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Versus actually identifying, no, the wine tour was shut down, but you already had plans today, right? So it wasn't really a problem. In this scenario, it's very much I can relate to it as well, because you're identifying, okay, what factors actually contribute towards your end goal, basically, right? And what you're explaining, you're taking me back to calculus with this coefficient variation stuff. But as far as explaining, putting it to down to dollars and cents and time frame in this case, it's really good to understand what the customer is wanting and what they are verbalizing as the business analyst, and understanding, okay, here's the numbers that prove, because they say numbers don't lie. Here's what proves that you're really not having a problem. It's more so maybe just the delivery or the way you're going about describing what your need is. Is that right?
Yes, that's very much right. It's like defining the problem. They told me there's a problem, but first you should always check if the problem is actually real.
Right.
And then you're using data to back that up and have objective conversation with someone. Definitely. Right. So like the model, the numbers themselves, the coefficient variation is a thing that, it's a very simple thing when you're studying statistics. Your guys' certificate covers that and goes way beyond that in terms of technical skills. So there's not a lot of refinement. It's just more the behavior of, before you accept something, go do something very complex. Start with the easy things first and see if the things actually makes any sense, right? So it's just the approach to the problems to see if it's an actual problem.
You're right. I'm staying corrected. Stat, not calculus. I took them the same year, so my mind, it's all the same thing. But all right, no. But thanks for sharing. I wish I could stay on, but there's an echo, so I'm going to go off screen and give you some more screen time.
Yeah, and then whenever you want to jump back in, please feel free to do so. This is a very nice setup that I can see when you pop in. Cool. So again, that was a lot of behavior, very little technical skills involved. Of course, use SQL to pull all the data and thought a little bit about it, but very simple in general. So scenario two was this. Or client success team, so the team that manages the clients that have meals from us, ask the following question, very open question. Are our clients happy? I said, gosh, I don't know. Like, you tell me, you talk with them, right? But of course, what they meant is, Felipe, we need to figure out if our clients are happy with our service. We had already a bunch of metrics, but we wanted to improve this, right? This isn't, I'm making a little bit of an exaggeration just to make it clear how the questions come from a very bird view, high level, to actually drilling it down to actionable questions and actionable outcomes. So the first kind of questions I had for this, the problem is, are our clients happy? So it's not figuring out who's happy and who's not, is can we make a model? This is the problem. This is the defining problem. Can we make a model or a framework that tells who are the happy or who are the not so happy clients? And why? So the first thing is like, okay, is this a real problem? Sorry, if you can just go back. So the first problem was, is if you could just come back one slide, just other questions, why that's relevant. Yeah, perfect. So, the questions I was starting to ask myself is, okay, how do I know that? First, do we have a good product, like compared to competition? Yes. So that's one question. Are clients going to leave us? That's a very good question, because if our clients are not happy, they're probably going to leave us, and that's going to be really bad for the business. So this is a relevant question. And the third question was, okay, but how we define happiness in an objective standard? So, okay, I thought, okay, the problem is actually real. We need to create some standardization of what happiness means, because if clients are not happy, they're going to leave us and there's not going to be any business. So then what we did next was, can we move to the next slide, please, Isa? Yeah, perfect. So I thought, okay, we need to create then a model to describe the level of happiness using your data. The first question is obvious. Can happiness be described using numbers? It's one thing. Then I looked at why the clients that left us, although very few, why did they leave us? So I can think about what are the numbers that actually matter. And what are industry standards? If I'm going to have to draw a framework to decide who's happy and who's not happy, I need to have a baseline in the industry, on the catering service industry, and the food industry. So those were the three questions I had in mind. And then the output was, okay, so what do I need? I need to create a framework to objectively describe levels of happiness, in this case, using the data we collect. Right. And then the table that you see below is the initial output. So on the first column, you have the client health, the client health category. So if it's green, yellow, red, or gray. And you have the three dimensions we chose to describe happiness, given the data we collect. First one is execution. So how many meals without any issues you have, basically. The second dimension was food IQ. Food IQ is our proprietary technology to measure how much you're liking the meals. It's like a rating system that we have for each meal you get, for each item you get, for each what we call meta tags, which is a descriptive tag for each meal, if the meal was savory, salty, things that I was talking before. And lastly is your experience score. For every meal a client gets, they can say, oh, I like this meal in general, and I dislike this meal. So these are the three dimensions we use to describe happiness. And then we graded them based on industry standards. And then in the end, we made, okay, let's make a combination of these three categories to create a final health. And then the final health is what you see on the left. Each client now, we're going to categorize them as green, light green, yellow, light red, or red based on their numbers on these three categories that we define. So we use industry standards to define, okay, what the number should be. We use our data to see, okay, what are the categories that we can use as proxy for happiness. And then we can classify our clients to see who's happy and who's not happy. So that was the framework created. Isa, you want to jump in?
Yes. And so in this scenario, in terms of, have you had any tough, because this one seems to play out as, very simply. You can easily identify who's satisfied, who's not, and then make the adjustments. Have you had any scenarios where maybe the numbers don't come out as clear, and you're then, I guess, having to revisit then what you were evaluating in terms of what, was considered satisfactory or not, if it was the food, if it was the timing, if it was whatever that you're analyzing? Have you had any situations where you had to maybe go and redo the analytics?
Yeah, so that would be a step after you do that. So first you come up with a framework, and then you categorize the clients, and then you compare. Okay, I'm telling you this client is good. You, account manager of this client, I'm telling them they're happy. Are they happy? Right. So then you get a proxy between what your numbers are telling and what's the subjective feeling and perception of someone that's actually managing the account. And then, so that's one process of iteration. So you see, okay, actually, we need to raise the bar, because I said that if you have a 75 score of food IQ, means you're loving it. But no, wait, we have a bunch of clients that have 78 food IQ score and they're not loving it. They're telling me they're not loving it. So we have to adjust the bar. That's not the case, but that's one step of feedback, so we can improve the framework that was just creating the framework. Then another improvement of framework is saying, okay, whenever a client churns, meaning they terminate our contract with us, if that happens, where were they classified? If they are always classified in red, yes, probably this framework is working correctly. If they were in green and they're still leaving us, something wrong. I'm doing a terrible job of categorizing clients. Because ideally, if I say the client's green, nobody should be concerned about the client. They should be concerned about the red clients. So then it's it's after you create the framework, we're going to iterate and see, okay, does this framework actually works? Is this a good representation of happiness? Because that's the ultimate goal, right? I need to create numbers that are going to tell me someone is happy or not. And that's very hard. And then that's why I need an interactive process to see if this is actually working or not. And then lastly, we built this in a platform that we use, a BI platform that we use, which is called Domo, so that easily any person that works in our company could see how many clients we had in each of these categories, and then who were the clients, and if they could filter by and see more details about it. So then, we created the framework, which was very simple in the sense that, basic Excel skills for the most part, a lot of business knowledge, a lot of research, and then now comes the technical part. Okay, let's build something that's easy for everyone to access the information. If you want to change the standards, that's interactive, and that's comes the technical skill part. And this is an actual chart that we have. Okay, cool. So last scenario, and then this is the one I would love if someone will jump in. Isa can jump in also if she wants to, and show her calculus skills to us. But this is a simulation, a scenario that I would like us to try to think about the approaches, right? Defining the problem, understand if it's actually real, ask more questions, then define the output and build the output to see if we can understand what's happening here and what would you do as a business and data analyst if you were in my shoes, or what I should be doing. Okay, so then if you ask questions, if you don't understand the problem, so it's, again, defining the problem is the most important thing. So let's read through this. Let's say we lost an account. So we had Tesla. Why did this happen? And how can we make sure it doesn't happen again? This is not real, by the way, but just let's pretend this is real. Actually, we got Tesla. And then, so Tesla was an account, very broad. They decide to churn or leave us. this shouldn't be happening. We have a very good product, have really good food. Why? That's a broader question. Cool. So the first thing is, let's understand this problem together. I'll just give you some more context. So ZeroCater serves lunch to a Tesla distribution center in downtown San Francisco. Oh, I'm sorry. This should be downtown Austin. That's my bad. It should be downtown Austin. Let's say Tesla is in downtown Austin. It's a distribution center. Tesla's food program admin loves our food and our service. She loves it so much that she decides to start a program with their engineering office, which is in Cedar Park, a suburban area in Austin, so a little bit further north than downtown. After 2 months of service, the admin terminates our contract. She says the engineers aren't happy with her service. Okay, so that's the context I had initially. So I would ask you first if you have any questions about this, the general context, and okay, what should we do next?
So this is a good time to put your thought process in the comment section. If you have any proposed scenarios that might work, or maybe a better way of addressing this situation, understanding what the problem is. I'm going to throw my 2 cents. Maybe I think it has to do with maybe could staff or the service be, well, she said she's happy with the service, but the admin terminates the contract.
Yeah, but before we try to figure out what the problem is, what's the solution, like what happened, so understand if the problem is real and ask more questions. What are the questions that you would like to dig in to see if actually why this happened? What are the first initial questions you will ask yourselves?
So understand why this happened. This is a good time if you have anybody who's on the call here has any idea as to why this happened, go ahead and throw your comments in the comment section so we can share them and brainstorm together. I'm gonna give y'all a chance before I start blurting out stuff.
We're gonna have 2 more questions in the same problem, so that's just the initial question. Yeah, you can.
So we can go on to the next slide, but while we're thinking here,
okay, John T said, create a feedback gathering solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's good. We need to know what's the feedback. That's perfect. If it already does exactly. On solution 2, remember, John, that's a very good point. On scenario 2, we had just created the feedback solution, right? We had the feedback and we created already a framework to see what feedback. I guess the first is to find out what changed. That's exactly like why were they liking it and why, at least from her perspective, why were they liking it? Why did they stop liking it? Exactly. Very good. Okay. It's the same questions I've asked myself. Automated data gathering. Yes, that's engineering team. We already have that, but that's good. Let's say we have the data. We have the data about them, what they like and not. So the first thing, okay, I think they're saying they're pointing the right things. Let's give them more so they can move forward with the thinking. That's exactly it, John and Patrick. If you click one more, I think there's the questions I asked was, okay, what objectively were their scores? So remember, we had one location, which was downtown, and we added another one in Cedar. When we had only downtown, they were loving it. Cedar got in, they were hating it. What happened? So then I went to look at data to see if actually they were hating it and if they were loving before. So what the data is telling me is that, okay, downtown had a 2% execution issue, which is very good. Out of 100 meals, only 2 go wrong. And wrong is not terribly wrong. And Cedar had 1%. So Cedar is even better in execution. So far, they're doing great. Food IQ, which is how much they like the food, in downtown was 90. So out of 100. So very good feedback. They are saying they love the food in downtown. Cedar is 65. It's in the verge of being bad. So the first thing is, okay, downtown loves the food. Cedar dislikes, quite close to disliking the food. And then the experience score is how they like their experience. Downtown's even better. It's 95. And Cedar is 50. They're hating their experience in general. So that's, like, I go back. Yes, no, because that's the spoiler alert. So now I want you to think, looking at these numbers, look at these numbers first, memorize the numbers. So execution, they're the same. In terms of food, downtown likes it a lot, and Cedar close to not liking it. In experience, downtown thinks they're having the best time of their lives, and Cedar thinks it sucks. Now we're going to go back one slide. Go back one slide, please, Isa. One more. Look at the information you have on your right and try to think, why are the numbers so different for both locations? Maybe not the answer, but what could be contributing, given the context you have, to these two locations having such a different perspective in our service? Did they ask clear? Why did they have so different? The numbers were so different for both these locations, given what you can see on the screen, on the text on the right. That's the challenge now.
Could it be maybe that their experience with actual staffing or service, or maybe availability of food is different? Could that be?
That's a very good question. That's a good hypothesis. They have access to different food. Why would they have access to different food, Isa?
Distribution reasons. When it comes to what maybe what is delivered to one location versus what is delivered to another location.
One is in Cedar Park, which is far. One is far. The other one is downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yes.
Or what's available in that area.
Correct.
There's enough people that have allergy issues, so y'all just exit totally. I don't know.
Sure.
But it's a good time to throw your other comments in the comment section if you have any idea as to why the experiences are different.
Menu and demographics. Scooter, what are demographics? Oh, demographics. Yes. If you can, I think I know what you mean. I have but if you can just expand a little bit
like
more.
Preference of taste or preference of different cultures requiring different, ingredients or food items.
Yeah, but let's say, yeah. Okay.
Or different age groups like different types of food. Some people like things that are more trendy versus some people like more traditional, sandwich and soups. I don't know, but
might be, yeah. But why, people on average should be the same. But do you see anything on the text that indicates you that they would like different things?
Okay, we get some comments here.
There we go. Lisa Silguero, nailed it. I mean, of course, that's not that the exact solution, but it was one of the key points. The demographics, as Skeeter was saying, are different from those two locations. The downtown is, factory workers. Yes, exactly. So different workers. They had maybe a different expectation of what a great lunch means than the engineers of Tesla. So the demographics are quite different. Doesn't matter. But it matters that they need potentially different kind of, their expectation for food is different. The amount of food they need potentially is different, right? You're a factory worker, a distribution worker, you're probably very hungry, doing a lot of exercise maybe, so you want a lot of food. And it doesn't have maybe to be the most premium food, you just want more quantity. Where maybe the engineers, maybe, it's a generalization, they get, they want less food because they are on diets and they want more healthy food. Right? So you nailed it. It's like one of the reasons. So the questions I was going to ask is, do they have the same budget? Meaning, did Tesla say, okay, I'm going to pay as much money for the engineer to eat as I'm going to pay for the people working on the workers on the distribution center, right? Maybe it's the same, maybe it's not. I don't know, but that's a question. The other one is food expectation, as we were saying here. Are the engineers have expectations for their lunch? As engineers, just is it's a white collar job in general, right? Like, so are the same expectations between different locations? The distance, as Isa was saying, is the distance the same? For the food could get colder easier if you're going further to the engineer location that's in Cedar Park. And lastly, the products that they had were different. One had managed catering, the other one had Cloud Cafe. That has different implications. So all these things are the starting point to understand why a program is successful versus not. Ultimately, that means when you think about all of this, okay, so I'm not going to give the answer then. Let's think together because you guys did really good on this now. What should be my output then? No. So let's divide this in two questions. What's the reason why Tesla stopped working with us? And two, what should be my output so that we can figure out if a new location or client that was happy is going to be successful with us or not? So prevent this from happening before we know. So two questions. First one, why then the answer, like a one sentence answer, why did Tesla, what's the root cause why Tesla stopped working with us? And second question is, what should we build so we can prevent this from happening? Two questions.
Maybe some kind of survey that would pull data from each location to get the specific preferences for each location so that you can then, instead of just serving of all, one fits all, one size fits all, you can have the preferences that are for the engineers that are Cedar Park, right? And then the preference for those who are downtown.
That's a very, very, very good point, but I want you to wait a little bit more because the people were doing some really good. I'm not going to answer, but that's a very good point.
That's my guess.
No, that's very good. There's one layer that you can go a little bit further, but that's the initial thought. That's perfect.
Let's see.
Would like to eat? Yes. Yeah, Lisa. So that's very similar to what Lisa's killing it. It's very similar to what Isa was saying, but there's an underlying problem after you figure this out, which is find the types of food employees would like to eat. So let's say we did. And we actually do. We have an amazing preference survey that figures out what everybody loves. Mm-hmm. So let's say we know what engineers want and we know what the distribution center wants. Is this preventing me to have this problem again?
I would say yes.
So Isa, let's say I'm a terrible cooker. And let's say I don't have a lot in my fridge. I can ask you all the things you love to eat.
But you're still a terrible cook.
And I only have a couple of ingredients. If I invite you for dinner, I can know everything about you. Am I preventing you from having a terrible dinner experience with me? Why not?
You're still a terrible cook. And you don't have enough ingredients.
Exactly. So yes. So what's the conclusion there?
Hire somebody else and go shopping for the right groceries.
Yeah, and then translating this to the ZeroCater world, what does that mean?
I want to let somebody else. Let me see. Oh, hold on. Let me go back in order. Sorry, Lisa was first. We said that.
Yeah.
She said no. Okay, and then we said no because there are other factors.
And suppliers, good, Cindy. That's getting warm. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have any info about John, Patrick? Y'all are hitting it on the nail on the head earlier.
Which variable is the true cause? John, maybe, but then that's where it gets really complicated before you even figure out what the problem is. Should we make come to play? Cooks may not be trained well. Yes, that's where we're getting. Okay, so you guys are in the right direction. Maybe it's just because you don't have the context and don't have the time to explain the whole ZeroCater thing. But Very good. So let's go to the next slide. The output is the root cause is the variety that they have access to. The type of suppliers you need for the two groups of people were very different. The problem was that we were sending people that were designed to serve really well the distribution center. We were also sent to the engineers, even though we knew what they like. But the problem is, do we have the suppliers that actually can cook what they like? That's why they left us, because we didn't have enough of the good things they liked. Cindy, we did a survey. We know what they like. But can we deliver what they like? So why did they left us? Because we didn't have enough variety for the preference profile of the engineers. Now, what should we do to prevent this from coming? Next slide. Our output was a variety assessment. Every client that comes in, okay, I'll explain the next one because there's a bunch of stuff. If you can, please, Isa. Yes. So this is a dashboard that we built in Domo, which is a BI tool where we can see the data, where you see the filters are on top. It says region, zone name, and then menu item category. There's a bunch of filters that you don't have to understand all of them. But what it does, it tells you, okay, if I have a new client, for each client that's new, each location that's new, let's plug in their attributes, meaning, okay, the client's Austin, their zone is Austin North, and then they want to eat, you see menu item size 0 price on yes there, a little bit below on the bars. How much they want to pay for an item, what's the weight of that item. So you run all the variables that actually describe a client, and the output on all of this is these 3 big numbers, which tells you, the first one on the left is number of the 11, number of restaurants available, number of different items available, and number of different cuisines available. So now we have something that tells you in a very good way, without having to do yet the regression analysis, do I have enough supply to give good variety and good food and good rotation to my client? And then if the answer is yes, great, going to be successful, or very likely to be successful. If the answer is no, hey, talk to the team that goes after new suppliers. You got to rush it through. You got to build more manuals. You got to bring more suppliers. Otherwise, it's not going to be successful. And then the regression analysis, John, could be done through clients that take a look at clients that churn, take a look at their variety, put a number there, and take a look at clients that are very successful and what their variety looks like, and see if there's a correlation between number of restaurants available and your food IQ score, right? Or your general, like your client health. That's the green, red, yellow that we did before. That could be done after we do this. But first we need to get the data. Do they have enough variety? Cool. I think we are, like, I'm talking a lot. We're running over. So I think maybe that's the most important part. Okay, but thank you. So you guys did really, really good. If you, I'm sure if you had the context, you would be able to nail it.
No, this was a really good, the different scenarios were a really good way to understand the different types of scenarios that you're going through on a regular basis. Because like I said, the job description could easily just say analyzing customer satisfaction. Okay, what does that mean, right? Yeah. So we really appreciate the time that you spent going through those different scenarios to really put some context behind what kind of knowledge or what kind of line of thought that you need to have or develop in order to be successful in business and data analytics. And now I think it's a great time to now back that up with some of the things that some of these automats are already doing in terms of gaining those hard skills. What are the most out of this slide, this particular page, what are probably the top 3 things to start focusing on first if they have like little to no experience?
Break into a company. Regardless of the job, get into a company that you understand the industry or that you like or that you love.
No matter what the position is, maybe like from like an account manager into data analytics or
customer support, whatever you can do, get into a company that you like. Because again, remember the first point, the responsibility number 1 is understand the business. If you understand the business, then it's all about getting the hard skills to be able to show everyone else that you are always right. Not that you're always right, sorry, but that you can help everyone else because you understand the business. Again, data is worthless if you don't have good hypotheses. intuition, life hypothesis, and then you test process with data. So the first thing is break into a company that you think you're going to understand and help, regardless of how. And then there are two steps. Either two main things I think to focus. Either become a software tool expert, be the best at Salesforce, do all their credentials, Tableau, Power BI, choose whatever one that the company is hiring for. Focus on that. Or two-ish, build hard skills, which is a lot of what you guys been doing very well. I read the syllabus, was really nicely done. You got to know at least SQL and Excel. Excel, because it's very easy to show others your work and to build models that other people can understand, right? Most people know Excel. Not that many people know SQL.
Or Access on the Microsoft side.
Yeah,
that's if you want to check. If you want to check your work, you can use Access to check your work for SQL.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, and then writing skills are good because they help you think through very linearly and logically. But that's the least important. But the first, break into a company. Look at the company you want to work at and break into that company, whatever role it is.
This is really awesome. I really appreciate you joining, Felipe. And please, everybody, you can reach out on LinkedIn.
Please.
I know our data analytics.
Yes.
That data analytics cohort, as I mentioned, this is the reason why we do these events, is so that you can literally say, hey, Felipe, my name is Issa. I'm an Automite. I enjoyed your day in the life. Keep going from there. Because we want to make sure that you're getting direct. You'll have a point of reference in terms of conversation. So please reach out. He's expecting to hear from our Automites, especially if you're in the data analytics cohort. So thank you, Felipe. And we're going to bring on Theresa actually to share some about those roles that are available for on our job posting, on our job board. So thank you.
Hey, everyone. That was great, Felipe. Thanks for walking us through that. That was awesome. And a really cool audience participation, too. But if you guys are excited about what you've heard and what we do here at ZeroCater, please check out the Autumn job board. I have posted a number of roles. We don't have Felipe's specific role open, but we do have some things similarly. We have a lot of things that are sales related. We have account management, sales roles. So there are some things that still would be peripheral and work very closely around our data. But we don't have any actually data analyst roles right now. However, you never know, that could change. We do keep our careers page updated. But again, there's quite a few different listings there. I posted about 5 of them on the Autumn job board. So please check out our openings and we'd love to have you apply.
I think you're muted, Isa. Isa, I think you're muted.
That is the quote of the last 2 years. So all I said was, thank you. I always want to bring her back on the screen. Thank you again, Theresa. Thank you, Felipe, for joining us on behalf of ZeroCater. If you're watching this and you didn't get a chance to see it live, you can definitely still reach out and check our job board. As Theresa was sharing, they actually have a quick turnaround for those roles. So if you're really interested, I would definitely hop on there as soon as possible. If you find a role that's outside of the job board on their career page, if you want to go to ZeroCater, Theresa, if you want to put that in the comments here, we can visit that. Just send me an email what that rec number is, and we can make sure that we're connecting you to the talent team that they can see your profile. But yes, definitely check us out on all of our social media platforms. We have, from the month of May, we have an event each week for sure. So we definitely look forward to seeing you on our next event, our next discussion. And if you have any questions, you can reach out on our webpage, or if you have my direct email address, you can do that as well. So thank you for joining, everyone, and we look forward to seeing y'all again. Thank you for ZeroCater. Have a good one.
It was awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Definitely.